Welcome to this little sharing of mine. This is 1 hour sharing of basically my knowledge and experience and information. Now, just a bit of credentials so you guys know who I am. This is me. Hello. I run this company called Pixl Digital. We do support specializing in WordPress. I've been doing this for 11 years, so I've got pretty decent experience in quite a lot of areas, lah, be it technical, non-technical. I've got some corporate experience helping with solopreneurs as well, so on and so forth. So these are a little bit of my credentials. Now, before we start, what's this about? This is an open Ask Me Anything session. So I'll be answering anything on websites related topics. All of you guys have already sent in your questions and I have them listed over here. So I'll go through them one by one. Now, why am I doing this? This is just a bit of a knowledge sharing because I'm a little bored and I have a bit of free time. And also to build some video content for my brand. And this is really an experiment. I do intend to do this or rather, I'm not sure whether I want to do this as a weekly session or not yet. So this is just a test. Now, this is most of you may be asking this. Will you be upselling any courses or products? Am I adding you a mailing list, whatever it is? No, I have no such products to sell. I'm not an academy. I'm not a guru. This is a 1 hour knowledge sharing session. So yes, can we start? Yes, we can absolutely start. I'll do this one at a time, but I do have some group questions which are similar. So I'll start with those who registered first. In fact, I'll change it up a little bit. I'll start with those who are actually present here now. And after that, I will go through the rest. So since Brenda is here, I will answer this set of questions. I don't think everyone else is here. So would like to learn more of WordPress, how to build a simple website. Now, Brenda, since you're here, could you maybe share 1 to 2 minutes about how experienced you are in any kind of websites before? Have you managed a website? Have you played around with WordPress or started a Wix website before? Have you started a Facebook page even, or are you like complete zero? Okay, sure. So now this is important, to know the difference as to whether you're building it or whether you're going to maintain it, because WordPress actually can get quite complicated because of the nature of WordPress. You can add a lot of plugins and things like that. But if you're just going to manage it, then it's a whole different story altogether. Okay, so let me get into this and also talk a little bit about Elementor. I don't think Tanoshi is here. No, guess not. Okay. So now to build a website on WordPress is, I wouldn't say very easy. Like if there's anyone in this chat who has never built a website before, never done anything on WordPress, it can be quite technical and it will take you a few hours to learn. Let me give you an example. For how to build a WordPress website, you can really come over to YouTube. There are a ton of tutorials how to create these WordPress websites, because there are so many ways to build a website, but effectively there is 3 components, right? Number one, you need to register a domain. So you can do this on GoDaddy, you can do this on Namecheap. There are so many exabytes, name.com, domain plus. What this is your address. You need to have an address to go somewhere, right? Like for instance, brendajames.com. So for instance, so you need to register the domain. Now, once you have the domain already, you need to get this thing called a web hosting. WordPress hosting is basically like renting your shop lot. So you need a place to put your files, your database, right? So you need to buy this thing called WordPress hosting, and this is usually on a yearly basis. Sometimes people charge on a monthly basis. So you need to then connect this WordPress hosting to your domain, which is kind of a technical thing. and I won't cover this right here right now. Because I understand right now that Brenda, you are a non-technical person and you just want to manage it. So to build a simple website on WordPress itself requires a few technical parts: hosting, then domain, then hosting, and then you need to install WordPress. Now the steps will be covered in various steps over here because it is a lot of steps. They will talk about hosting, so on and so forth. Usually, these hosts, some of them will have panels like this. You can just one click follow the instructions and install WordPress. And after that, you'll come to the WordPress backend. So I will skip all of these sections because it's quite technical and it will take quite a long time to cover them. Lah. Once you come to WordPress, you will have the WordPress background, so the WordPress backend, which is something like this. Now, it depends very much whether or not uh, your web designer is using this thing called Elementor, which brings me to the second question. Now, who here has heard of Elementor before, other than Brian? Nobody? Okay, cool. Now, WordPress, right? Because WordPress is actually, we call this an open source web builder, meaning to say, the source code is available for everyone. Because of this, there are thousands and thousands of plugins that people build to add on functionality to a WordPress website. Now, a normal WordPress website actually has very little functionality. I'll show you my own website. This is one of my simpler websites that I built. Okay, while it's loading. Now, someone's music is on. Sorry, can we? Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is I'm not sure why that's not loading. Now, when you come to WordPress backend, you will see a lot of this, but a lot of these are all added on Mailpoet, Rank Math. Now, pages can be built by writing normal text. Now, this when you first time install WordPress, you will see a very basic interface like this, where you can add text, you can add images, and then you upload your own image, so on and so forth, and you can build a simple website or a simple blog like this. But this is very limited, and you can use this thing called Gutenberg Builder to add in more layouts and more advanced stuff, more blocks, so on and so forth, which I won't go today. But you can use this thing called Elementor, which is a page builder. Now, this is this is what you will most likely be working with when your designer hands off the site to you. Okay. Let me look at this in a while. Let me finish my Elementor part. Hello, Liu. Welcome. Liu is a web designer, developer like me. I think he's more of a developer. Is actually more technical, more advanced than me. So welcome and happy that you can join me here. Okay, now Elementor is this thing called page builder where you can have a lot of elements over here and you drag and drop them into your site in your pages. In this particular case, you can see it's in this small area, you can actually change it, so on and so forth, make it a full width page. So I won't go into how to learn Elementor, but there are lots of Elementor tutorials again on YouTube. So Brenda, I highly recommend that you watch a few of these Elementor tutorials because this is what you'll be needing to edit your site, drag and drop, changing button colors, changing the text, the style, the hover, so on and so forth. It's a very powerful tool, which I will not cover over here in detail. Now, so this is number one. You should watch a few of this, then you can manage your site easier. And number two, you'll need to understand also what are the different plugins that your developer installs over here, and then learn out about them. So analytify. So and then you just need to do an analytify tutorial. YouTube is the best source of learning for all of this. Okay, so I think I'm already going a bit too much into this question. So Brenda, anything else regarding this question? Can I help you with? Okay, cool. Much very welcome. Now, let's move on. Is Zainal here? Oh yes, my Rehat. I remember seeing you here. Okay. All right, cool. You'd like to convert your website myrehat.com with the following features. Sorry, I forgot about Builder On. Give me 1 second. What is this digital marketing platform? Blah 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 blah. Okay, Brenda, you're already using this already, is it? Okay, your question was? Right. Okay. So Builder All is an all-in-one. It seems they host your website and your forms and stuff like that. So it's a totally separate system from WordPress. So since you already have experience with Builder All, I think you should be very easy for you to use Elementor. It's basically drag, drop, edit. So yeah, that's all there is. Now coming back to my Rehat. So you mentioned you want to have commission and calendar linking with Airbnb. Oops. Able to do feature ads, able to do webinars. Okay, so I'll answer this one first. Webinars you can do just like this, like what I'm doing today. You don't actually have to host your webinar on your website, which is actually something I do not recommend. So webinars, I would recommend using any one of these. Using the webinar software, you can use Google Meet, you can use Google Zoom. Just record your webinar and then you upload it to YouTube, for instance. You can upload it to YouTube. You can upload it to Vimeo, which is basically YouTube as well. And then what you do is you embed your video in your website as a record, which is what I'm going to do lah. So how to embed a YouTube video is pretty easy. I think everyone probably knows, but I'm going to cover this anyway. In YouTube, there's a share button, embed, and then this one, you just put it inside your website. So for instance, this. If you have a text editor, you just put it inside here. If you use Elementor, there's this thing called video embedding. You can put it inside here as well. All you need to do is put the URL, put it over here, and then you see the video over here. So I recommend doing webinars this way instead of hosting it inside your website itself, because video hosting takes up a lot of space, a lot of bandwidth, and since there are already free options out there, might as well use it. So Zainal, did I answer this question? Let me answer your other questions first. Now, feature ads. Ads is super easy. Now, MyRehat, I see it's already using WordPress. So if you want to do ads, it is super, super easy. Now, it depends what kind of ads you want, because there are many, many ad platforms. Let's say, could you share whether you are technical or non-technical? Really, everything, you will see me doing this a lot, Googling. And this is something I can professionally do for my clients, where every solution you want is available on Google, is available on YouTube. So I highly, highly recommend after this, sharing session, Google everything, YouTube everything. There's a ton of everything. Now there is webinar press, there is a long list of tutorials you can have a look over here. Some of them will allow you to host your own webinars, which means you actually use the camera and basically do all of this, but not on Google Meet, where they'll allow you to do it on their platform, so on and so forth. Some of them will integrate with YouTube Live or use any pre-recorded video and then they'll put it in your website. Is it recommended or not? It really depends on you, whether or not your hosting plan, your server is able to manage all of this. do you have enough bandwidth to host a big webinar? Because let's say the webinar takes 1 hour, right? Like in our case, 1 hour. 1 hour streaming session with recording will probably be maybe at minimum also 500 megabytes. More likely will be 5 gigabytes. So if you're streaming this to 20 people, then you will take up bandwidth on your site, or 100 people will take up bandwidth on your site. 5 gigabytes times 100 people, that's 500 gigs of bandwidth gone in 1 day, right? So all this you have to depend on each specific plugin. This will tell you what is good, what is bad, why you should have it, why you should not have it, all the different functionalities over here. My personal recommendation is to do this. Google Meet or Zoom or whatever it is, record it, then just embed it in your website using YouTube, because this way you use zero bandwidth, zero website, zero server hosting requirements, no CPU usage, so on and so forth. It is basically free. Okay, so did I answer that question? Now, feature ads, this is again very easy. Add plugin WordPress. Plenty over here. It really depends on what how you want to track your ads, because there are some free ads, paid ads. Some are a bit more technical than others. The professional websites use this thing called DoubleClick. It's changed name to something else. I think it's called. It's no more called DoubleClick. I think it's called Campaign Manager, so on and so forth. This is a lot more technical, and I will not go through this. But if any one of you here have worked with large agencies before, they will give you a script that you copy paste into your website. It looks something like this. So this is what we call integration, which I will not cover today, and this is what professionals use. Now, you may not need such advanced ads. You can do a simple ad platform like this. So what it does is you just install this plugin. Again, there are many out there, and a lot of people will tell you what is the best. So the easiest way to do it is to install yourself and see if you like it. Because a lot of this is also a different user interface. Some is easier to use, some is harder to use. Some have more features, some have less features, some are paid, some are free. All of them do most of the standard things. You can do a standard ad, which is like just a picture over here, and then you can click. Some will have fly-in ads, so it's like things are coming from the site. Pop-up ads, after a while it will pop up from your screen, corner pillars, so on and so forth. There are many, and it's very easy to use. Search for a plugin, install it. You can usually search it from within your plugin list as well. So the best way is just to install, test, don't like, uninstall, delete. Okay, so that's easy. Commission and calendar linking with Airbnb. Could you tell me more about this part? Actually, you know what? Zainab, sorry. I think because we've already taken a bit of time and these technically 3 questions, I will come back to this. I'll answer the rest first. Okay, hope that's okay with you. Jasper is here. Where do we usually hang out? Okay, so there's 2 questions. Where do we hang out? I hang out a lot on Facebook. The question was local web developers. Jasper, do you mean designers and developers or specifically developers? Okay, so I'll talk about WordPress first, and then I'll talk about the rest. So for WordPress, there are a ton. There's this thing called WP Malaysia. Liu and myself are in it as well. So it's it's not as active as some others, but it's actually pretty okay. There's WP Malaysia. There's another one called Kedai Kopi WordPress. This is a lot more active, has 10 times more people. Most of the content here is in Malay. Sometimes it's usually it's non-technical, but there are some pretty technical people inside there as well, so you can actually go over here and discuss some stuff on technical stuff. Now, Usually, what I do is I search for groups. There's a ton of them on Facebook, so you can talk about WordPress hosting specifically. You know, then there's basically others like you can just search word Facebook groups. A lot of them are here as the most active types. Other places are Stack Overflow. Have you heard of this? Okay, so then I won't talk about that. Lao Yat, I don't know whether Brian, if you could share, is there still a big audience on Lao Yat for web stuff? Okay. Thanks very much for your sharing, Leo. So headless WordPress, let's all Google this together. WordPress headless CMS, blah 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 blah. Okay. And this is what I do every time I have a question on anything. Google it. Blah blah blah. What headless CMS? Da, 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 da. Press website. You can do that. So on and so forth. So on and so forth. You can use a bit editor. Okay, long painful article I will not cover. Do I recommend it? Like you said, if it removes the plugin functionality, if you can't use Elementor with headless, I don't recommend it. That kind of takes away the whole fun of WordPress. So I wouldn't. But if you want to explore, by all means, go ahead. Um, Facebook lah, developer, kaki, so on and so forth, and ask all your technical questions as much as you want. For me, usually I will find one group that I like very much, and then I will just ask the same group everything that I want. I build my relationships over there, start building my friendships instead of joining 20 different groups at the same time. That's my general approach. Usually, I like groups 5 to 10,000 members. Any more than that, and then it becomes a bit hard to remember everyone, and then your post will get lost. And you don't get answers that quickly. It's just my personal opinion. Okay, Jasper, did I answer your question? Most welcome. Do I find contact forms on my website still relevant? Yes, absolutely. But it depends on your own business as well. Let me give you an example. Um, Now, this is one of my clients. They are a exhibition website. They do virtual and online exhibitions as well. The exhibitions are like they go to KLCC, all five halls, 10,000 people. Now, for a place like this, they use contact forms a lot for normal contacts, and also they use contact form for people to reserve booth or register for the event. So for if how should I put this? So use case number one, if you have a lot of traffic, a lot of customers, and you want them to put fill in a form because you're expecting a lot of traffic. This will help you to organize your information in one place. Let me give you an example. Um, Now, there are lots of contact form plugins available. There is one called Caldera Forms, which I use a lot. Another one I use is Fluent Forms. It looks roughly the same. Let me see if I can get you a a better screen. I don't use it. Okay, so in Caldera Forms, you will etc etc. Okay, you will see all your contacts, all your submissions in one list over here. Then you can export them. You can view them one by one. This makes it convenient when, let's say, if you compare to a normal website that doesn't have a contact form. This is not existent. You just put your address, your phone number, your email over here. Uh, that one, okay, I'll give a use case later on. But for websites like that, what I notice is sometimes what you call that, it can get lost because your information is there as an email, so people email you. And if you're like me right now, I have a few thousand unread emails. It will get lost very quickly, and then you don't, maybe 10 months ago someone emailed you and then you forgot his name, whatever. So contact forms make it convenient for you to see track, within context very easily. But if let's say you are you're a small traffic website and you don't expect much people, you clear your emails very often, you don't want to give customers force customers to fill in a form, then I would recommend having email over here. Having an email address or phone number over here lends a form of credibility to your site. If people come to a contact page and they see nothing but contact form and then they can't contact you, basically you feel you will force the user to you're telling the customer this, don't call me, I'll call you. So you're telling your customer, I'll let you know if I want to get in touch. Like if you want to get in touch with me, yeah, sure, great. It's a bit lansy. It's a bit of a negative experience. So where possible, I recommend having your information out here anyway. Contact form is convenient for you. It is not convenient for the customer. So you need to have that balance whether or not you want to let the customer have more power or do you want to have more power. You can have both at the same time, but then this will also take up a little bit of resources on your server. Usually it's very minimal, so it's not a big problem. But contact form is more for your convenience, not for the customer. Did I answer the question? Okay, cool. Let's move on. Now, is Nell here? Yes, Nell is here. Next gen image, could you maybe share a little bit more about your question? Mm-hmm. Okay, so okay, let me answer that one now then. So WebP is yes, it's a new image format. We call it NextGen. Okay, so there are three or how should I put this? Okay, so you know there's JPEG. And that's the most common one. Then there's another one called PNG, right? So these two are the most common formats, and WebP is a new one. Talk about here, blah blah blah. Basically, it's better lah. No need to. It's better, better, sharper, uses less size. Now the problem with WebP is it's not a pure image. It has a bunch of other codes as well. So it depends on the browser. Now since everyone pretty much uses Chrome, so it's safe to say that WebP is safe for use in most places. That being said, your usual image editors, Microsoft Paint, will not be able to export into WebP. And so this is not really being taken up by a lot of people. There are plugins like Short Pixel that help you to compress and optimize this one, but it also converts your page, your picture into a WebP format, and they don't charge you. Maybe let me ask, is the reason why you're asking this for page load time, or you're just curious to know what can it do? Okay. Okay, cool. That makes this question easier to answer. So, okay, let's talk about size. I think since this is the last question on the list, I can spend a little bit more. Now, this should benefit everyone. So GD Metrics is a not benchmark. It's a page load tool where we will see how long it takes to load the website, which part of the files loading is slow, what improvements can you take, so on and so forth. And one of the things that help the user experience, and this improves your SEO as well, is page load time. Basically, the faster it loads, the better it is for your site. And if the pictures are large, there's a lot of big pictures, large screen, high res pictures, it will take longer to download, depending on your internet speed, so on and so forth. And so one of the things that matter to us is reducing the reducing the page size, which means reducing the image size where possible. And so that's why we're talking about, for instance, this one ads. We'll talk about this some other day. But just an example, you can see what are the, if you use GT metrics, you can see how big some of the files that are loading on your site, how long they take, so on and so forth. So you see like PNG over here, some PNG, JPEGs, they usually take up the most size. And what we want to do is we want to make this as small as possible. Which brings us to, okay, before talking about short pixel, I'll talk about JPEG versus PNG. Now, JPEG is best for photos because if there's a lot of colors in the image, JPEG is the best to compress it into something that's relatively small. Usually 70-80% is good enough. PNG is good for few colors. So if let's say I were to take a screenshot of this section, okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus white, 5 colors over here, and then I save it here. Okay, now if I save this as a JPEG, let me do that in another screen. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so if I save it as a PNG, it is half the size at 16 KB compared to a JPEG that's 36 KB. And this is a simple image. If it was a full screen image, you will see a huge difference. Now, this is because PNG is based on colors. And if you use this thing called Short Pixel, you can do it for free over here. You can use you can sign up for their packages. I subsell this to my clients as well, but you don't have to. So what Short Pixel does, and this is a plugin. Everyone of you, I think you should definitely check this one out. If you have a WordPress website, use this and install this in your website. It will compress 100 pictures per month for you for absolutely free. Now, so what this does is it will compress images even further. So just now you can see this is a PNG file, compress it like literally 2/3, and there is no difference in image quality. JPEG is almost the same, but you can see usually there's a bit of a degradation. So they have 3 levels of compression. But even after compressing, you see 9.1, 5.1 is still double the size. So you should use the best format depending on what kind of image you have. If it's a photo, use JPEG. If it's a graphic illustration, usually they're better with PNG. So that's number 1 format. WebP, if you use Short Pixel, it will actually excuse me. If you use Short Pixel, it will compress. It will create another version alongside your JPEG and PNG, which is WebP and AVIF. Short Pixel does this for free. So what it does is it will host. It will deliver either the original, which is could be JPEG or PNG. It will deliver either one of this or the WebP version if the browser supports it. So if the browser supports, it will automatically deliver the WebP version. If not, it will deliver the source version. So you don't actually have to do anything. Just to talk a little bit more about size, format is one thing, but another thing that's important is resolution. Now, if your picture is big, but the location that you're using is small. For instance, let's say here, let's say this picture. Let's say this picture. Okay. So your website is only going to use this size. So that's probably like, I don't know, 400 by 300. But if you upload a 4000 by 3000 picture, it will actually take up a lot more space and it's unnecessary. With Elementor, actually with WordPress, it will also, we have this thing called image crunching where it will resize the image to fit the box. But if you use Elementor, there are options that you can set, you can force, okay, I want this to load the 300 by 300 version, or I want this to load the 600 by 600 version. Sometimes, and this is a common mistake done by a lot of people, they will do this upload full version. I have this here. So let me just load an image over here. Okay, so the original is 2000 by 2000, right? But if I only want to show it in a small section like this, and then over here image size I put full, what happens? It will load the full 2000 by 2000 image over here, and then if you do this 20 times in your site, it will load. Now if you're uploading the photo, let's say from your phone, usually your phone takes pictures at 20 megapixels, that's about 5 megabytes. 5 megabytes times 10 pictures, that's 50 megabytes. You will have a long page load time. So this is not something that we want. Ideally, pictures should be around as minimal as possible while not sacrificing image quality. So we're looking at a few hundred KB at best, or the lower the better. Okay, so crop your images before uploading. That is the second lesson. So have the right format and crop it before uploading, and then use the right version in Elementor or whichever other page builder you're using. Brenner, this applies also for your what was that? Beautify. Sorry, I can't remember the platform that you were using earlier. Builderall, right? You know, it's also good practice if you upload, you crop your image first. So if let's say you have a big picture over here, and you're not going to use it, resize it to something else. Then you save this, then you upload this. So, cool. So, Nell, did I answer every concern you have? Okay, no problem. So, don't worry about JPEG, PNG. They will be around forever. Uh, so, if you want the highest possible visual quality, use PNG, because PNG doesn't have these what you call that. Can you guys see like there's like a degradation in the in the JPEG version, right? So this is what we call artifacts. This happens if you compress the JPEG too strongly. If you want like pure image quality, use PNG. Even if it's a photo, you want it to be ultra sharp, use PNG. It will take out a lot more space lah, but it will be sharp. So this will be good like for photographers. If you absolutely cannot sacrifice visual quality, use that. PNG, JPEGs, yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Render blocking resources, not very familiar with this. This has been around forever lah. To share with the rest of the viewers here today, render blocking resources. Yeah. If I understand it correctly, it's a kind of code, or is how should I put it? It's blocking things from rendering as fast as it can. Okay, so maybe let me try and explain it this way. So every website has a lot of files. These are resources lah. So ideally, all these files should be able to load, or be delivered from the server to the browser at the same time in parallel. Most of our sites now we use HTTP2, so a lot of these resources are loaded in parallel at the same time. Now, render blocking resources stop things from rendering. I can't. I'm not very sure. How should I say? Not very familiar of examples of render blocking resources lah. But basically, for as long as that file doesn't load, another thing cannot load yet. So it's dependent on that file. So again, coming back to Google, how can we reduce it? So like what you explained just now, Java, it could be a JavaScript, it could be other thing, lah, right? This is really a case by case issue. This file is blocking that other file from loading or from rendering. So you need to use this to identify exactly which file. Usually your audit will show you which file. So either you, let's say if it's a JavaScript, right? So JavaScript code that's loading. So sometimes you put that code in the header file. So maybe you might want to move that to to the footer instead, so that it loads last. Or if you can use some plugins that allow you to load JavaScript files later. I think was it Swift. I think does that. Yeah. So I think the some plugins allow you to defer certain files later, so that you load that script later on, and then it will you know, load the rest later. So this is a bit technical. Since we are out of time, I think maybe if you want, we can explore this a little after this. But this is yeah, quite advanced lah. So my best advice is to Google it and then use your waterfall, identify the exact file that's blocking it, and then perhaps use Swift or some other plugin. Swift Performance is a WordPress speed up plugin. I highly recommend it. So it's WP Rocket. So use that to try and defer the loading of that file. Hey Julian. So Julian, like Liu is a web developer, designer. Both of them are far more advanced than I am. So thank you very much for coming. You honor me with your presence. That being said, I've just answered, I think, everyone that is here. We are clear with the list of questions and it's open to the floor. It depends on which version you use. No, not necessarily. So if you're using Elementor, for instance, you get to choose which version that you want to use. WordPress compresses each file. We call it crunching, where it will take that full size image and then it will resize it into multiple versions, and then it will load that version. Default WordPress will load that version of the the image. So correct. This is so that it will load the smaller version of the file as much as possible. But if let's say you're in Elementor and you use this full size, not realizing the consequence that it will load the full size, the 10 megabyte picture or whatever it is. So as a best practice, usually what we recommend is to optimize it, compress it, crop it before uploading. Will it slow down your website by simply existing? No. So if every image that you load on the website is a compressed version, is an optimized version, then you can leave the full size image in your media file. What it does is it just takes up space in your hosting. So if your hosting can accommodate that space, no problem, leave it there. So long as you don't use a full size version. If you are technically capable enough, I definitely recommend updating them as and when it's convenient for you. It's always a good practice to update the plugins. Now that being said, sometimes there can be conflicts when you update a plugin, especially if you're updating a major update from version 3 to version 4, for instance. Like Elementor, when it upgraded from version 2.9 to version 3.0, there was a major pain in the ass. A lot of things were broken, things like that. So Usually, my practice when updating plugins is I wait for everyone else to update first, especially if it's a major update, like version 2 to version 3. I like to stay on to all these kind of WordPress groups. WordPress for non-techies is another good group to join. They discuss plugins, stable or not, especially the very popular plugins like Elementor. So it is a case by case basis lah, whether you want to update. Usually, what we do is like I know Liu, Julian, myself, we do this. We will spin a new version of the site, or rather a staging version of the site. We'll copy the site. There are different plugins to do this. Like I use all-in-one WP migration because I have a pro version. You can use a Migrate Guru, or you can do a manual migration or copy over. Grid Paint does that as well. So you can copy the whole site over to a staging site. So you have something like test.website.com, for instance, and then you can update the plugin over there, test again everything works or not, and then you update it on your live site. This is the most secure way to do it. A shortcut that I do sometimes if I'm pretty sure that it won't break anything, so there's a lot of double work, I will rather do that. I'll just back up the site, do my updates, test it. If there's something wrong, I restore the site. This is doing a backup is very, very important, and this is something that I think everyone should have lah. So back up the site, then do your updates. Then if everything okay, leave it on. So that's my general thesis on that. Usually, I mean, I've seen sites that have not been updated for 5 years and they still work fine. I've seen sites that are updated every month and then sometimes they will still get hacked. So it's something that it's not 100%. It is always good practice to keep it as updated as possible, but it is a balance between risk and updatability, updateness, and also how much time do you have, like basically, to go into your site and update everything. Or because to run a backup, depending on the size of your your website, it can take 10 minutes, it can take 1 hour, and also your hosting. If you're running on VPS, yeah, I can back up my site in like 2 minutes. If you're running on shared hosting, sharing the server with 600 other people, a backup can take half an hour. And then the plugins will take another half an hour. And then anything wrong, restoring will take another 2 hours. So it really is dependent on the resources available to you. On the note of security, you should definitely have a security plugin, or not necessarily a plugin, but some kind of service to protect your website. WordPress on its own is fairly secure already, but because you have so many plugins in the website, and some people use like a custom theme as well. I use Hello lah, so it's an empty theme. Sometimes you may use like Jupyter or some other fancy all-in-one theme. Long discussion on that, which I won't go into, but then those things can be compromised as well. So for those, you should use a security plugin. What I'm using right now is this thing called Virus Die. I actually resell the license to this as well. You can totally get your own license over here. So it's $15 a month. Another one is Malcare, which is also quite good. This is cheaper. 99 per year is about $8 per month if you count, if you divide by 12. These two are good because Malcare is good because it scans your site on their server. So what they do is they make a copy of your site, they copy over to their server and they scan it there. So if you're using shared hosting with very little resources, low CPU, a little bit of RAM, Malcare works better because you do slow down your site while it does scanning. Virus Die, I think it doesn't do. Actually, I'm not sure. I think Virus Die also does it off-site. But Virus Die and Malcare cost money. There are free options over here. I'm guessing a bunch of you have already heard of this thing called WordFence. It's good, but it scans on your site itself, meaning to say it loads the engine onto your server and it uses your server resources to do the scan. So if you are scanning every day, then you will have every day there will be a spike in CPU usage lah during that scan time. And WordFence free is 30 days behind. So if let's say there is a new a new virus that was released today, and WordFence found about it today, the paid version you will get your site updated immediately. The free version only 30 days after that, then you will have the fix for that virus, so to speak, in the matter. But it's better to have WordFence than have none at all. So in this site, I'm using Nowcare. In other sites, I use Virus Type. There's another one called Sukuri. I use this as well. I used to use this, I don't use this anymore. There's I think Titan just came out with theirs a few months ago. I think last year or 2 years back. There's this. Another one is I think it's not a scanner if I remember correctly. It just hardens your website. For me, I use this thing called all-in-one WP migration. It is very convenient for me because it exports it. Don't have a sample here. Exports it into one single file. It's a WPress file. Let me see if I can give you an example. It's this one. The free version has a certain limitation. If I remember correct, it will only it will back up no matter what size, if I remember correct. But to restore the site, it will only restore the site if the backup is 500 megabytes or less. I'll give you an example. It backs up into it's into a very easy, clean solution of WP RSS. So it's one file. You don't need to think about anything else. So I like it because I only do full site restorations. I don't need to think so much. Another one is Updraft Plus. This is something that I think you should definitely look into as well because it's free and it will back up files. How should I put it? Yeah. So, and you see over here. Okay, so it backs up different chunks, and you can actually set different different backup schedules. So for all your files, it will back up. You can say back up once a day or once a week, and for your database, back up every hour. I think you can do that every hour, every 2 hours, something like that. So this would be good if let's say you run a blog and you update. You just write a lot, but you don't upload a lot of pictures or a lot of files, so you can afford to lose a picture or two, for instance. Backing up files and doing a full site backup using all-in-one does suck up a fair bit of server resources, so it really depends on what you have available for yourself. Look at this. Updraft is used more than all-in-one actually because it's more free, put it this way. There's no restoration limits, no file size limits. You can actually what you call that, upload it to where is it? To G Drive, to FTP, to Dropbox or Amazon if you have it, so on and so forth. So it's very convenient if you have all these extra resources. Meaning to say you can set a scheduled daily backup, and then it will automatically upload the files to your Google Drive. So if your site fails, if your hosting fails, the files are still in your Google Drive, so you don't have to worry so much. Yeah, it's basically one-click restore. And just click on this button and then click restore. No, it doesn't restore a certain amount. It will only restore if your size is less than 500. It won't restore. It won't give you they'll ask you to upgrade to the pro version. Oh no, WP Bakery, we all hate that. Liu and Julian, I think you're already cringing right now. Okay. Yeah, so WP Bakery is the old version of, it's a page builder, just like Elementor. Like Elementor has all these elements, blah blah blah. This is the format lah. WP Bakery was the king of page builders before Elementor came around. And it still powers millions and millions of sites. Still a lot of people use it, and I know some web designers who still use it lah. I personally hate it. It is ultra slow. It's difficult to use. It doesn't do your checkout page. You know, in so if you run WooCommerce, you have a checkout page, yeah, and the cart page and all. WP Bakery can do very limited customizations on that, but with Elementor, you can actually you can customize that page as well, and also your archive pages, your search results page, your single product page. If you're using a theme, so yeah, your theme will most likely come up with predefined layouts for the shop page or for the individual page. So you can only have like a standard layout for this. You can't change the layout of how your product page looks like. You can do that with Elementor. You can edit. You can't migrate from WP Bakery to Elementor as in one click, one click. What you can do is you can install Elementor first, and then you rebuild the page individually in Elementor. Yeah, so you have to come to here to your pages, and then basically rebuild lah. So you create a new about me page, and then you design a page in Elementor, and then you replace it. So one by one. Yes, yes, there is no shortcut to this. So usually what we recommend, like for our clients, is we just tell them, okay, since you have to rebuild the whole thing, right? Might as well you do a full redesign and so on and so forth. It just makes more sense that way. But if you just want to migrate, then install Elementor, rebuild each page one by one. Make sure that you take note of the URL, the URL, because if you're building a new page, so then you have this kind of extra URL. So for Google, right, this is a new page altogether lah. So when you delete your old page, you need to make sure that your new page has the same URL and not 10 times this. So once everything is updated to Elementor, then you can delete the WP Bakery builder. I definitely recommend using Elementor, especially if you are doing e-commerce lah. Not necessarily Elementor per se. I mean, I find Elementor easiest to use. It does have its own problems, like a lot of people are complaining that it slows down their site a little bit more as well. There's another thing that you can look at, which is cart flows. This is especially for e-commerce lah. Is quite recommended by a lot of people that I know who use it. I don't use it per se. I don't really have time to explore this, but you can look at this. This goes well with Cadence. The Cadence team integrates pretty well with this as well. So I think if you're using Cadence and cart flows, you don't even need the page builder, or you don't need to use Elementor. You can stick with WP Bakery lah. These are it gets more options for your e-commerce. Yeah. Never ever update the source. Yeah. So yeah, because if you update the source, you cannot update the plugin like what you say, like you have to edit and everything. So either you, yeah, yeah. So there's two ways around it. I'll talk about Elementor first because it's my personal favorite version now. So okay, so with Elementor, right, you can edit this thing called the archive page. This is found over here in templates and new. So you can add templates to the header, the footer, the archive page, search results, so on and so forth. And so this is, let's say, now this is my WooCommerce single product page. I can edit the layout anytime I want to do anything I want. I can put in the rating over here, and then it will dynamically pull from which with Elementor, right, you can actually add things over here, and it will pull dynamically product related products, stock levels. You can customize it anyhow you want. You can add in images. You're literally customizing your WordPress single product page. So whenever you update WooCommerce or anything lah, you will not override over this. So you can definitely use Elementor. I highly recommend Elementor lah for this. If you are using a theme, sometimes other themes come with multiple WooCommerce layouts, so you can use those as well. I don't really like doing that. I use Elementor for that. I use Elementor for everything now. I don't even use a theme with a demo or whatever. I use this thing called Hello. So Hello Elementor has no theme options. Sometimes you may have like big things like X or Jupyter or I can't remember all the old themes. They have a long list of options like theme options page, ask you to customize this color, that color, whatever. I don't do that anymore. For those of us who use Elementor, we do everything in here. You can customize the site settings, default colors, default fonts, other identity stuff, default background. You can build the header in Elementor as well. So you don't even need like sticky menu options, mega menu plugins. You don't need any of those. This is the header menu. I can customize that. I can customize how it looks for tablet, how it looks for mobile, whether or not to show it or not, what alignment. If for mobile, I want it to be left, right, center. If for mobile, I want to swap it, uh, swap the columns. So I want to show the menu on the left and then the logo on the right. I can do it this way. This is something that WP Bakery can't do, by the way, to optimize for tablet specifically or mobile. Very limited. You can customize it on a per column basis, but it's very restricted. So that's why I recommend Elementor. Thank you so much for participating in today's session. Happy to help. If you have any other questions, post it in the Facebook Facebook group. Thanks so much, everyone. I'll see you. Thank you. Bye.